There are some really unique ways to earn money by lending on DeFi, but you have to be able to use and deploy the right strategies. So we're going to go ahead and talk about those strategies and how you maximize your earnings on lendings in this video. So to start, we're going to look at AVAX lending on the Trader Joe platform. So first you go to TraderJoe XYZ.com, and then we're going to jump into the lend feature, which you can go to the tab up here at the top, or you can scroll down and click lend right here in the options below. Now, as you can see, I have already lent before this video $3,706 worth of AVAX. And we're going to talk about the lending, but first I want to go over and I want to talk about the borrow portion first, and that's going to become more important later. Now, for the borrow, we could talk about a lot of strategies on this alone. And we're going to in another video, so make sure you subscribe so that you can see that video when it comes out. Turn your bell icon on. I'm going to cover all the different strategies that you can use borrowing for. We're going to specifically talk about Trader Joe, but later on we'll talk about other platforms you can borrow and how you can really expand your abilities with DeFi by doing that. So what I want to point out is the borrow limit. So right now we have 37.5 AVAX borrow limit. If you are joining Trader Joe for the first time, if you're lending for the first time, this is going to be 0. So we're going to talk about how to change this from 0 to something else, why that is, what the advantages are when you can borrow. So let's jump back into lend, and we're going to go down here. You'll see 2 columns, total deposits, total borrowed. Total to put into, in this case, the Trader Joe platform. And this is what people have borrowed from the Trader Joe platform. So you can see 230 million relative to the 682 million that is deposited right now. So let's go ahead and go through an example of what it looks like to lend to deposit AVAX. So right now with AVAX, the APY for depositing is 0.84%, and then you have a Joe Rewards APR. The difference in these is with the deposit APY, you're going to earn 0.84 APY percentage points on AVAX. So you're going to get AVAX as your interest. Now that's not super high. Let's jump into Joe. You're also going to get 6.09% APR on Joe, which annualized to an APY is closer to 7%. But this amount goes up and down throughout the year. And when would you actually want to do this? When do you actually want to lend your AVAX if the returns are much lower than what other places you can see in DeFi? The way to think about that is if you're buying AVAX as it means to sell it. If you're trying to flip AVAX, meaning let's say you're buying AVAX as it gets lower and lower, your dollar cost averaging AVAX. That means if it starts at $80, you buy, let's say 10% of what you're willing to put down on AVAX. You buy $1,000 of AVAX at 80. Then it drops to 70. Now you buy $2,000 of AVAX. Now it drops to 60 and you buy $5,000 worth of AVAX. And that continues as you keep going down in price. And then as it goes back up, you sell it for outsized gains because you had bought all that. But let's double down on that by lending out that AVAX. Because whenever we want, we can go ahead and redeem it. So if we've supplied 50, right, maybe this is our returns right here that we've gotten so far, we could go ahead and hit maximize our returns. We want everything back. We can do it right away. So this means that we're going to go ahead and earn our Joe APR, and then when the price flips, it goes back up. Instead of just holding it with no gains, we're going to lend it out so that we can earn some kind of interest. So we already have deposited AVAX in here, but I'm going to go ahead and throw in an AVAX just to show you guys what that looks like. On the lend platform, we clicked AVAX to deposit. We're going to throw in 1 AVAX. You're going to pay the fees. We're going to confirm those fees. It's a couple cents for the gas fee on AVAX. That's why we like that. And the speed of it, we have the pending transaction that's going to close out soon. And what's great about this is as soon as this finishes, we're going to immediately be earning. So it already finished just now, and we're immediately going to earn our interest. So we're going to be earning our deposit APY and our Joe Rewards API, which is awesome. Now, what I want to point out is, let's go back to deposit, and I want to show the rewards so far. So I staked a couple hours ago, and I have about 5.6% of Joe. Watch that, because later in the video you're going to see 0.5643 is going to go up. It's real-time earnings on that. I could probably refresh right now. This is a little bit bold of me to do. Let's refresh and see if it goes up. There we go, 0.5654. So it goes up just a little bit. And what we can also look at is the effect of all of this on our borrowing ability. So if we go back into it, we can see our now borrow limit is at 38.25. Remember what I talked about earlier, it was at 37, but now because we've put in more into the lend side, we can now borrow. Now, if you're doing this for the very first time, you'll still see zero. If you don't want to see zero, what you have to do is you go into your Joe Rewards here and you click this collateral button. You have to pay another AVAX fee, but it's 18 cents, and that will collateralize your amount that you've deposited. And what does that mean? That means when you're borrowing, you can borrow up to 75% of this value. And Trader Joe, in their platform, they maintain the rules on this for the risk parameters, and the risk parameters for AVAX is 75%. But there's other coins that you can deposit into. For example, USDC native, there's an 80% collateral parameter. So there's all different kinds of ways that you could think about DeFi and different reward metrics. But for this, you can borrow $2,836 in this case off of the collateralized 3781. So that means right now I can go in and I can go to my borrow section and I can take out 38 AVAX. And I'm right now earning on my lending, this stays here. So I still own this amount, this 51 AVAX. I still own the 51 AVAX that's being lent out, but I'm going to borrow however much I want here. So that means I would in total have 88 AVAX, but we have to be careful. If I borrow this, I owe this back. I have to pay this back. So when you borrow, there's a couple things you can do. I can put this, for example, into my lending again. So I can take that out and I can put it in here. And maybe I now have 88 AVAX. And then I can oftentimes borrow against that again. So now I go in and I borrow 75% of 88. So I can borrow over 50. And you can continuously do that up to a certain number of times. I'm not sure, to be honest, what the number of times you can do that on Trader Joe, but I know for protocols like Compound, it's 20, and they stop at some point because you can't borrow way too much, is the reasoning. So why would you want to borrow and take out this capital when you know that you're going to have to pay it back? The reason that you would take it out is because you think that you can get some kind of outsized returns by putting it somewhere else. So that's why we would look into borrowing. For example, what if you could take out $100 that you don't have today and turn that into $200 tomorrow? You pay back your $100, you just made $100 without doing anything, without putting any money down. So you could have everything already invested, but you're borrowing to get additional gains. And there's a lot of strategies behind that. Again, another video is coming soon for the borrow and the different strategies behind borrowing. So make sure you're subscribed and follow me on Twitter. Often post strategies on Twitter as well as post things that I can't post on YouTube. So what that means is a real-time coin drop or a new, for example, for the launch platform, if there's a new token that's able to put your RJO into, that's where I can jump in and I'm going to tell you about it on Twitter, but I can't always do that on YouTube. And so far, these are the tokens that you can deposit into, that you can lend from. These are the tokens you can borrow from, and they all have different APYs that you're going to earn from, or the APYs that you're going to owe. Later, we're going to talk about borrowing. Make sure you guys subscribe. Really appreciate this video and the time. And until then, peace out, guppies.